All right, this video is kind of a joke video, really. The got to thinking about tires. Um, kind of how people, put so much stock and I don't know what the right word is, but they really put a lot of emphasis on tires for these big adventure bikes, and I've had questions regarding these, this particular tire, or even other tires that I've had on bikes in the past. And um, my personal preference, like for what it's worth, is I like to run the most aggressive tire I can get. Street legal uh, tire that I can put on the bike. I want something that's got pretty good knobs, and I've run the Motas, the tires, and I've run, these happen to be the Mitas. They're second set I've had on this bike. Um, and honestly, I bought them just because of price. Um, you know, over both Motas and this brand, they you could pretty much find a comparable tread pattern between the both. And I'm not up on tires as far as like, oh, this one has a certain durometer reading for the rubber compound, and all this scientific stuff. Like, I'm just not there, man. I look at the tire and I go, oh, it's got knobs on it, and they're spaced pretty far behind, pretty far apart. So it's going to grip the dirt good, or sand or mud or whatever. That's kind of my thought. And then price, they wear out quick, when you have an aggressive tire, especially you get into the trail or doing BDRs or TETs or whatever, you're going to ride some road. So they're going to wear out quicker than a more, street focused tire. So price is a consideration, right? Because you're going to replace them more often. My last set of, Mitas, they lasted, I don't know, 5,000-6,000 miles, I think. The front got chopped up really bad, and they're bi-directional, but man, I'm not flipping them. Like, that's a pain in the ass. So I'm just not going to do that. And when it gets really chopped up on the front, I'll replace it. I ran a 150 series in the back, and this bike runs 17-inch wheels. So the problem was I couldn't put, keep the chain guard on with the 150 series. So I'm trying the 130, I think it's 130, 80, 17. I've tried to put the chain guard back on and it'll fit, but I just haven't put it back on yet. I'm not even sure I will, but I wanted the option to be able to. And they're a pretty good tire, but just like the rear, I don't have a big focus on the rear as much as I do the front. I like to have a really good knob on the front. It just gives me that confidence going around corners. And that's what makes you whatever floats your boat, I guess. It's like, I don't want the front end to be washing out. I'm out there to have a good time, and I'm not going to have a good time on the trail if I'm constantly on edge. And I'm not a great rider. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a maybe average rider, maybe below average, depending on who you ask. But this is what gives me confidence, is to have aggressive tire on the front. The back tire, I could care less as long as it drives the bike. I'm not going to purposely put this bike in a mud hole or whatever. But anyway, I guess this is more of a kind of a video about it's a humorous video because it kind of makes me laugh when you hear tire talk, but I'll be curious to see what people say if there's any comments.